Okay, good evening. It's close enough to 5. By the time the sentence finishes, it'll be 5 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Lisa Glidden, here. Tom Chiappa.
Here.
David Crisafulli.
Here.
Pam Dowd.
Here.
Jim McKenzie. Here. Sean Onmucht.
Here.
Heidi Sweeney.
Here.
And Maura Dempsey. Here. Okay, let's please stand for the pledge. Okay, we have no one for floor to the public tonight, so we will move straight ahead to the superintendent's report.
Well, good evening, board. Good to see everybody back tonight. I'd like to start our meeting out, as we kind of do, with highlighting some great things that are happening with our students. So, at our last meeting, I was sharing about, some of our students who were giving back to the community. And I talked about our girls' basketball teams and how they had done some, shopping sprees for kids and picked up some things for the holiday season. We also have a couple more folks that I think we should just highlight who've done a great job. So throughout the month of December, the High School National Honor Society collected toiletry items for the Human Concerns of Oswego's Food Pantry. This is their 6th year that the club has been involved in these activities, and they donated over 200 items to the agency, and we just wanted to tell them job well done. And also we have Kingsford Park Student Council, who was busy collecting toys to donate to the Golisano Children's Center. They raised over $200 worth of toy donations for children at the Golisano Children's Hospital. And the High School Spanish Club also recently organized annual donations to the Oswego Bookmobile. And all of the students, I have to tell you, their hearts were truly, I believe, in the right place. They were definitely wanting to make sure that they gave back to our community. And I think that's excellent citizenship, and it really just demonstrates their character. And I just wanted to say, job well done to all of our students, and I think we should give them a round of applause for their job. Job well done. So tonight we are going to share with you our budget presentation number 2. We have some information we'd like to share that's occurring in the district, and just some preliminary numbers that we're thinking about in terms of our budget. As we have been working through our budget, we have been certainly keeping in mind the goals for the year, which are to make sure that the budget, again, is fiscally sound, not excessive to our taxpayers, that the budget is flexible, foolproof, flowing, and it is aligned it's aligned to the district strategic plan and considers long-term perspective as well for the district. Recently, we had a strategic planning meeting back in the fall. A number of the subcommittees have been meeting as well throughout the year and working on a number of items from those strategic planning exercises or activities. And I wanted to share with you a couple of things that we're working on, because we want to include some of those things in this year's budget for consideration, basically. So again, our mission and vision and our core beliefs, and I certainly wouldn't read those to you again, but all of these items are rooted in all 3 of these portions of our strategic plan. Uh-oh. Our computer went dead there. Hang on for just a moment. Sure. Oh, the joys of technology. So you have the, let's see. There we go. One moment there. Okay. And then it gets stuck. No, it doesn't like us, Matt. Not sure what it's doing there. Well, all of you have a copy of the presentation in front of you, am I correct? And the presentation is also online, so Folks who are watching us certainly can go online under the superintendent's report, and you can see the presentation right there. Okay? All right, while Matt's playing with that. So I'm going to go to the slide that deals with the 4 tenets of the strategic plan. You know that there are 4, in terms of priorities and strategies, there's 4 tenets. The first one deals with engaging, making sure that we have rigorous and aligned relevant curriculum and instruction. The second deals with support, that we address the diverse social and emotional and academic needs of our students. And then there is the third tenet, partnering, that we develop strong relationships with our parent and our community partners and maintain those. And then the fourth tenet deals with build, that we optimize the efficient usage of district resources. Okay. Now, in terms of the engage section, just want to let you know a couple of things that we're working on. So this year, as we're kind of moving forward, we're working on ELA and math curriculum writing projects and alignment. So currently, the state is putting into place the next generation learning standards, which is a big change. And so in ELA and in math is where we're starting with making sure that we realign what we're doing in terms of curriculum. With our math program, at the last meeting I mentioned that one of the things that we are in need of is a new math program. So we have been using Common Core materials, which have served their purpose, but the life of the Common Core modules is gone. If you go to the state website now, they're saying that they don't even recommend that you continue to use those. So we need a new math program. We're in need of that. And as we move forward, there's a curriculum team. Jeremy's in charge of the math area. They're looking and piloting out, doing like multiple pilots of different programs. Our goal is to go out and see schools that are using different programs. Many of our staff already have some of the materials that are proposed to just kind of try them out and get their thoughts out there. But before the year's out, our goal is to select a program and to get a new program for next year. In terms of PD, next year we want to make sure that we have enough PD in place to roll out those next generation learning standards and also assessments. The tests are all going to be different as well next year, so it'll be a big, it's going to be a different change. It's going to be, a different time rather, and there's going to be some change there. We are working now on STEM and STEAM for the next year. We would like to see some STEM and STEAM programming in place across the district. So one of the things that we're thinking about is Project Lead the Way at the elementary level. They have a really great STEM program where kids are doing engineering, using math, reading, science, all the different skill sets, and not even recognizing that what they're doing is actually math, science, and reading. But there are some really great Project Lead the Way materials that we are certainly considering right now for the next year. We'd like to bring in some additional clubs. Robotics is one that we'd like to do. We'd like to get a robotic team in place. There are a number of schools across the district that have them. We had a team. That team has not been operational for quite some time now. We'd like to get some things back up and rolling where that's concerned. And then esports. So many districts now are doing esports. We have a lot of kids who have a lot of interest in esports, and we'd like to see that happening across the district wherever possible. We want to continue to build. With respect to credit recovery programs, we are in the process now of making sure that we up the ante around credit recovery now. The goal is to help us with our graduation rate. We have learning labs in place and structured study halls in place, after-school tutoring programs. We'd like to continue to see those in place for the next year. We want to continue to add, wherever possible, additional dual credit courses. We know that this provides an opportunity with respect to equity for students after they leave from here, right? So we have some children who've shared with us loud and clear that being able to realize a college degree has some challenges to it, primarily because of the cost. But if we can do the courses here at a dual credit, in that format, it leverages the playing field for students because they can leave here with, in some cases, an associate's degree pretty much almost underneath their belt. So certainly something that we want to continue to work on. And then we have a DEI initiative in place, diversity, equity, and inclusivity initiative that we introduced at the beginning of the year. Next year, we'd like to continue to do some professional development and continue to work through this initiative across the district. With respect to support, Currently, we are providing ongoing professional development. Next year, we'd like to continue to move forth professional development around trauma and informed and restorative practices across the district. We are looking at our counseling plan right now across the district. We are implementing the second step curriculum. This is a social skills curriculum. It addresses social and emotional learning for K through 6 students. We'd like to continue with that. There may be some additional costs with respect to materials. We are revising reading protocols on chronic absenteeism, and we're looking at our MTSS process that we currently have in place. That's multi-tiered student service. Say it again for me, systems of support, multi-tiered systems of support. And this is really an intervention process that we have in place to intervene for students who are struggling academically across the district. We currently are providing a plethora of mental health supports, and we want to continue to do that for next year. So we have counselors, mental health clinics, we have alcohol and drug counselors, we have social workers. Well, we may want to expand some of that in the next school year to help our students. We are providing a variety of student workshops and programs that are focused on social and emotional needs. For example, this year at the high school, we had Rachel's Challenge, which was back this year. We have Focus Forward. I believe we had a presentation with them at the middle school. And then we are currently providing tutorial services. Again, as I said, structured study halls, learning labs, and after-school tutoring for students. We'd like to continue that in the next year. And we are, reviewing and revising, considering revisions to our schedules. We also, in the next year, want to look at grading and homework policies, course offerings, and pathway offerings as well. And that work will take some professional development support to be in place to be able to accomplish that work, getting all that work done. So some of that's happening now and some in the next year. With respect to partnering, so we have really 5 pretty cool, I'm excited about them activities that we're working on now as a part of our strategic plan. The first is an initiative called College for All. And what we're doing is we are reaching out to our local colleges, CCC, OCC, and SUNY Oswego. Many of the colleges currently are seeing some changes and challenges with respect to admissions. And the process can be challenging for some kids to kind of make their way through that, as well as the whole financial aid process. And so there's an initiative that's happening a lot up in the Schenectady area, where the local colleges have said, we're going to cut through all the tape here with all the admissions. And if possible, we want to offer admissions to every student from your school in the Schenectady Central School District. And we saw this model, looked at it very thoroughly, studied it, and we'd like to see it happen here at Oswego, that every student who attends our school at the high school level, if they'd like to, would be able to be accepted to one of these local colleges, and then the college would work through all the paperwork and the tape that needs to be done to get those students there. We already have a college who has already said, hey, we have interest, and so we are very excited about that and setting up meetings now. All right, so we certainly want to continue that. We would like to consider a second initiative with a partnership which is around healthcare. So we know that we have quite a few of our students across the district who are having some challenges around healthcare. And when I say healthcare, we're thinking not just health, but health, dental, mental health, behavioral kinds of supports, social worker supports. There are significant needs. And so we have been talking a lot as a strategic team about how could we help with this need. The goal is to address those needs so that we can remove any barriers that might be preventing some of our students from being present in school and being able to maximize the learning experience. And so we reached out first to our local hospital to see if there was some support there, and they directed us to Connects Care. And Connects Care is right now up in many of the school districts in Oswego County, Pulaski, Mexico, I'm just thinking of a couple of them, Sandy Creek, Fulton, I believe. There's a number of them that have these school-based clinics in them. So we have reached out to Connects Care, had some conversations with them, and there is interest in trying to create a partnership. There is only startup costs that are needed, and the startup cost is for the actual facilities, the place where that care would be offered. Connects Care has shared with us already that they can offer to us health care behavioral supports, social worker supports, dental supports, did I miss any of them? I think I got them all. Am I right? They don't do vision as of now, but all of those they're willing to do. And basically, we talked about how many sites. We'd like to start at one site, if possible, between Layton and the high school, and then see how that goes, and then add 2 additional sites, one a year, basically. But it is certainly an option. Again, there are costs, and the costs are just paying for the space that the care center is going to be in, basically. You have to renovate it up to par. Once you have the space in place, it's there basically forever. So there would be no additional costs on the district. And cost, it depends on your space, right? Cost could be as low as $150K. They could be up to $300K. It depends on what your space looks like and what the needs are, basically. So we have a number of spaces, and we certainly would like them to come and look, and we're trying to identify some of those spaces. But this is certainly a great opportunity, I think, for our kids. So I wanted to share it with you all so you could think it through a little bit, and we'll come back and talk more about it. On Point for College is a program that we are now moving forward with. On Point basically is a program. It started out in the Syracuse area, has evolved, gone to Utica. It's now in Oswego County. And what it is a program that helps to get kids into colleges or to trade school, whichever they would like to do. And basically, the kids, fill out a form, fill out an application, and they are connected with a team of mentors who meet with the students. They help them get their college applications filled out, their financial aid reports done. They take them on college tours. They help them all the way to graduation. Once they graduate, they help them to move into the college dorm or get into the school that they want to get into. They give them basically an allowance of funds to help them get those startup things that they might need for school. And then they stay with them all the way through college. Once they are done at the college level, they help them then with being able to hook up with jobs, basically. The program is highly successful across the entire region. I believe they have like 90% or more of their folks who have been involved have been very successful with the program. And there is no cost for the district, except, well, the one cost is, it's not really cost, it's give them a space, give them a room to work with, and they like to connect with our counselors to make sure everything is working well. So they were actually with us a little bit last year, but they're definitely with us now and willing to help, and they're helping schools all across Oswego County. Parent University is another initiative we're working on. So we want to partner with our parents on a variety of topics. So what we want to do is create a parent center where we basically are providing classes, professional development, have you, for parents on some of the things that we're teaching across the district and topics that they might need extra help and supports with, while also connecting them to the supports within our system and supports, within the community, right? The goal is to bridge that gap with parents who say, hey, what are you teaching my children, and how do we do it? And we want to try to support our parents and yet partner with them at the same time. So this is another one of our partnerships we're working on. And then lastly, we have a STEM partnership with the Children's Museum of Oswego. And basically, this started with Jamie Psychic, where he reached out to the museum, and they had some conversations, and they have kits. They're little science STEM kits, basically. And the kits go into one of our trailers that we have, and we take these trailers to each of the schools. The kids can come out, grab a kit, and they can go and explore STEM activities that are part of this trailer, basically. The goal is to connect the students not only to one of our entities in the community, but to connect them to STEM exercises, right, and activities. So we want the community to be an extension of the learning that's happening, right? The community has so many resources, and we certainly would like to utilize them. So these are some of the partnerships that we're excited about, that we're working on right now. We wanted to share that information with you. And then lastly, build. So, as a part of the strategic plan, we were to be working on ways to be more efficient with respect to resources. And so we've already completed a comprehensive efficiency study. We've created we're in the process now of working on a long-term facilities plan and also long-term fiscal plan, and we'd like to partner with the board on these plans. So we gave about a year or so ago to the board, we shared a reserve plan, a draft of one. We'd like to come back and take some time and look at that this year and next year, along with a fiscal plan. And maybe I would like to suggest that we bring back Dr. Timms to see about that long-term fiscal plan to help us to create that. And then the last piece is, we want to continue to regularly consider efficiencies that we can utilize throughout the district. So those are some things that our strategic planning teams are working on, and we're definitely on our way. A number of these items we can already start to check off, but this is work we're going to continue to do this year and also next year. Any questions about those strategic planning items? Everybody okay? All right, then. So I think tonight we're going to now move on to our capital budget piece. At our last meeting, we talked a little bit about the foundation aid increases over the year. Nancy, you want to just go through the slide a little bit just to kind of review what we kind of went over last time?
Certainly. As part of the campaign for fiscal equity, small city school districts received their pro rata share in foundation aid that had been held back for years. And you can see, starting in 2018-19, our foundation aid was $16.3 million, and it has incrementally gone up. So 2021-22 was the start of that, where we saw a large increase in our foundation aid. 22-23, another large jump, and next year will be the last jump in the foundation aid increases.
We'll go on to the next one. Budget tax levy. You want to talk about that one?
This slide shows you our budget, which is in the orange column, and in the blue column, that is our tax levy. You can see that our tax levy had jumped high in 2011, 2012, and 2014-15. That is when that is the result of the nuclear plants going on and off the tax rolls. But as you can see, it has been very level, and it is, even though our budget has been increasing over the years, the tax levy has not been increasing incrementally along with that.
And when we think of the capital budget, this is inclusive of a couple of different items: transportation debt, debt service on buildings, principal and interest, all facility costs, including salaries, the service contracts, maintenance supplies, equipment, and also utilities. One of the things that we have that we'll talk about in just a couple minutes is we have some bus needs. We certainly are thinking about health and safety with respect to our buses. We currently have, just so folks know, 46 full-size buses, 4 full-size wheelchair buses, 2 mini wheelchair buses, and then 4 mini buses as well. So now we're going to just kind of go through each of the items. So talking about those buses, I'm going to have Nancy go ahead and share about this slide.
Certainly. So when I met with the Transportation Department on their budget, the majority of the Transportation Department's budget is in the program budget, which is not in here. Only the debt service on the buses is included in the capital portion of the budget. So, but the transportation supervisor did ask us to consider 12 new vehicles, which include 8 full-size buses, 2 minibuses, and 2 SUVs. And his rationale is to continue the 6-year life cycle of the buses, which keep our maintenance costs low, and all repairs would be under warranty. And the estimated cost of the full-size buses is $1.2 million. Minibuses approximately $120,000, and 2 SUVs about $80,000 for an estimated cost of $1.4 million, which at this point would be bonded for.
In terms of debt service, we, as we kind of put this portion together, we would see a reduction by about 10%. Nancy, you want to go over that?
So principal, this is for all of our long-term bonds. It also includes any short-term financing for a BAN, which is a bond anticipation note, which are short-term. And it includes the principal for buses. Approximately 13% of the principal amount for 23-24 is for buses. The rest is for all capital projects. So our principal amount for our 2023-24 proposed budget is $6,108,000. Our current approved budget for the 22-23 year is $5,740,000, and with an increase of $368,000 or 6%. Interest has for the interest on buses rather is only 3% of that total. And for the 23-24 proposed budget, it's $2,975,636. And for the current year, it's $1,481,570, or a difference of $1,494,066, and an increase of 101%. Interfund transfers, this is where we had the soil project for last year, in which we had to do the interfund transfer to get the money back to the capital fund. So you can see that for next year, there is no interfund transfer for capital, but for the current year, it's $2.8 million. And so when that falls off the books, that's a 100% reduction. And that has created the dollar change that you see in the principal and interest, which is a reduction of, total dollar reduction of $1,029,575, or a reduction of 10% of the budget proposed for next year.
Sure. Go ahead.
When Rick Timms was here the first time, he had talked about us considering maybe not bonding for buses and just buying them outright at the end of the year, or at some point if we had the cash on hand. I don't know if you all have like thought that through, or what you thought about that, but is that something we might want to think about if we have?
Some school districts do that. They just buy buses every year, but it's like a one or two buses. Our fleet is so large, and we want to get into that maintenance, that we want to make sure that we keep buying the correct amount of buses every year. To put out the cash for these buses, we could do it, excuse me, but the problem I see is that right now we're matching our budget debt to our payments coming back in as revenue, right? Because we get transportation aid every year. If we bought the buses outright, we would still only get our pro rata share over the next 5 years. You don't get it all at once, even though you pay cash. So it's more of a timing and matching of your revenue to your expenditures.
Yeah, so like you have an amount, yeah, I mean, people do that. A lot of districts do that. They buy the buses right out if they have the cash on hand. But again, it goes to what is your fiscal long-range plan as well? How much cash do you have in your reserve? And then what are the needs that you need to have bought? And what's the time frame for all of those, right? So when you go out to buy those buses, the question is okay, so I'm spending this money that's in this account. It's going to take 5 years to get it back, right? How does that match with all the needs that are across the district, right? What's in the district that I might need to have done? So like in our case, we have a capital project, right, that we are, we're working through, trying to make sure we're in an escalating time, right? So the question is, do we buy all those buses up front, right, and then delete the account? Or do we say, hold on, or use that fund for the capital project that might need to be done? It's something to consider. Does that make sense?
It does, and I have just one last question about it then. If we did buy it, we would have to take it out of our capital reserve?
Well,
Because that, I think we don't want to do.
It either can come out of the capital reserve or it goes into your regular budget. So we could plan to use $1 million in the general fund budget. That cost would go to the taxpayers, and then they would see that transportation aid come over the next 5 years. The issue with that is, if we ever went to a contingent budget, that all your equipment is cut out.
Right, okay.
So you might need buses, but you can't get them, right? And then the other thing is, if you don't want to have swings in your debt service, because that will affect your levy, and it will also affect your tax rate. So you don't want to reduce your debt. It could also have a negative effect on your tax cap.
Right, go ahead.
Thank you very much.
You're
That was
welcome.
comprehensive, and I think I get it now.
Okay.
So districts do, there are districts who do go out and purchase, buses, right? But again, it depends upon their fiscal plan, how much they have, in their accounts, right? What's coming down the pike. There are districts who, I've done that before, right? But again, it was based upon what we had, what was coming ahead of us. So it does happen, right? Sir?
Excuse me, a couple clarifications on that then. If I heard correctly, if we were to include the buses in the budget, they would still be aided but would be paid back over a five-year plan?
5-year periods, 5-year plan.
Would
yeah.
the amount of total aid be equal to the amount of aid received if we did it under the way we have been with the referendums? So we have been, you see what I'm saying?
I think I understand your question. We get about 79.9% in transportation aid. So anything up to the difference between 100% and the 79, say 80%, that 20%, that is the local share. So that is how much we don't get back in aid every year. So there is a cost to the taxpayers, but it is not like some other districts that only receive 30 or 40% in transportation aid. Our transportation aid ratio is very high.
Okay, so I guess then two more questions. If we, again, I'm going between that balance of the referendum yearly, as we have been doing, versus incorporating it into a yearly budget. Would the total aid of 79, 80% be the same for both options?
Yes, it does fluctuate.
Would the number of years payback be the same for both options? So you said if we incorporate it in the budget, it'd be over 5 years. If we did it as a budget referendum, is it also 5 years?
It
or
is.
payback? Oh, so it's the same.
It's the same no matter which way you do it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So in terms of debt service, the principal and interest increase on debt are the results of short-term construction in the process bond anticipation, notes for the capital project, and then the planned reduction in inter-fund transfer is the result of the emergency soil remediation project. The district will receive the aid in the current fiscal year. Okay.
We're asking questions, right? Can we talk a little bit more about why the interest doubled? For the interest going from 1.4 to 2.97? So what's the rationale behind that?
We actually have a debt service schedule, which I can share with the board in transmittal if you want, and I can outline all of the debt that we have. It's just a mechanism of when the principal hits and what that interest payment is. There's no formula. It's
With
on
fiscal
a,
advisors, you have a whole program of what
it's
you're
on a
gonna do.
bonding schedule, so we know what our debt and interest payments are from year to year, and we actually chart it out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, in terms of facilities and buildings and grounds, Nancy, if you want to kind of go ahead with that part?
Sure. So this is the comprehensive budget for facilities and building and grounds. It includes all of your custodians, all of the maintenance on the inside of the buildings, the warehouse, all of the building and grounds that you see, the trucks and everything is incorporated into this budget. For salaries in the 23-24 budget, we are projecting $2.9 million. And in the 22-23 budget, $2.8 million for a dollar change of an increase of $93,580, which is about a 3% increase in salaries. Just so that you know what I do, we pull the salaries over to our accounting software one time. So there might be someone in there who has left and we've replaced them, or they've left and I know that that position is still open. I will put in a note that that's either a vacancy, but if that person has left, I don't change the names in my line item budget as long as I have that position in there, because we do position control in terms of HR and in terms of our budgeting. So as long as I have the position in there, I know that the money is already in there for whatever is, if someone has left. So as a point of a clarification. Equipment, did you have a question?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. Equipment was, for the 23-24 budget is $164,100, and in the approved current budget, $160,000, for a difference of $4,100, or a 3% change. Contractual for the 23-24 budget, $1,409,694. In the current budget, $1,368,209, for a difference of $41,485, or a 3% increase. Our BOCES budget, which is our telecommunication services, our phone services, and things like that, is $300,779 for the proposed budget. Current budget is $299,069, for a change of $1,710, or a 1% change. And supplies, for the proposed budget, $332,750, current budget, $278,050, of a change of $54,700, or a 20% increase. Overall, the facilities and building and grounds budget is going up, estimated $195,575, or a 4% increase.
And then major line item increases?
So in here, what I did is I looked at all of the major line items. I didn't have a salary threshold that I looked at, but any large variances I pulled into this report. Under the contractual building and grounds, there was a dollar change of $25,000, and we saw a significant increase in our Siemens controls and their contract. There were, as every time we do a capital project, there are more controls that are added, and because of that, they are added after the fact of the contract, and therefore, the increase in the number of controls that we have and the also created an increase in their contract. Rentals, and these are for the Verity storage containers. There's an $8,000 increase in that line. It's because of all of the moving of the schools and the classrooms due to the construction, with all of their things coming out of the classrooms and then all of their things moving back in. So hopefully someday we'll be able to return all those Verities. Maintenance contracts, $5,585 increase, and that's because all of our maintenance contracts just show an annual increase. Cartage, which is our trash removal, is showing a $7,000 increase, and that we went out for a bid with our trash, and that is our actual increase. Supplies are slated to go up $29,700. During COVID, we would change our filters out maybe once or twice a year, or before COVID, once or twice a year. During COVID, 3 times a year. I think we're going to keep on that schedule, and all of the filter costs have gone up, even though they're on a bid. So that's why that line has gone up. Building and ground supplies, $25,000. In our current year, the budget was reduced, and we've already overspent that line. That line has to go up, back up to what we normally would have had.
Was it reduced due to COVID and how things were a little wonky during the year?
Trending, we would look at trends. That was one of the ones that we really shouldn't have. And you know, Pam, what happens is there are a lot of things that come up during the year that are unexpected. I didn't know that we were going to have to redo the high school stairs.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of money. And then there were other things that had come up during the year. And so if there are any budgets that need to be reduced in the future. The facilities and grounds is not one of them, is not one of them, because they always have something in there for the unexpected, and it usually happens every year.
Great. So we had some requests that came in, and we wanted to share some of those requests with you this evening.
So this list has actually gotten shorter. We've done a really good job in trying to get the facilities and building and grounds what they've needed over the years. It used to be a lot longer list, but right now they need, some of their vehicles are old, some might not pass inspection, which is an issue. But they're looking to replace a maintenance van from 2007, a district grounds truck from 2004, a district grounds truck from 2012, and another ground truck from 2007. And you might look at these and think, wow, that mileage isn't really that big or that large. You know, why would we need to trade them in? And it's the start and stop. It's just like our buses. If you start and stop and you do these short trips and you're not taking them on long trips, it's gonna put a lot of wear and tear on these vehicles. And the vehicles are used multiple times a day. We could have maintenance people at the warehouse that have to go to Minetto, that have to go from Minetto to Riley or to Kingsford or wherever the next emergency is. So the vehicles are very well used and show it in terms of the need.
Yeah, I think part of it too is the mileage, or the year is one thing, and the mileage and that, but in the years, they just drive in salt. In the wintertime, if you look at the bottom
Yep.
of them, they're in bad shape.
Yeah.
Nancy, can you refresh my memory relative to the procedure? Do we trade these in, or these go out to auction, or how does that, so the net would be?
So
net
what we
impact?
do with all of our vehicles, whether they're buses or whether they're district vehicles, we use Auctions International, and we auction them off. We usually get really good money back on an auction because we take such good care of our vehicles.
Well, I just know right now with the demand for used vehicles, the value should be fairly high with the low mileage on these. So I was just curious as to the net will be, but that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see what it would be on a trade-in, but I know that when we auction them,
Yeah, either way, it's great. Thank you.
We also had two other requests, just to let you know, I know a question comes up, hey, did we ask the people from the department what they're interested, and they're not on the list here, but one of them involves, maybe an assistant person to help out with the transportation. So there's only Tom right now. There are some other ways that we might be able to cover some of those duties, so we're thinking that through, but that was a request for an assistant director. And then the other request involved some additional cameras up near the bus garage area, particularly around the fuel area, just to keep an eye on what's happening, what's going on there. So, that's something also we're just investigating and looking to see, hey, where might we get funds from, right? Whether it's a budget piece or is it something that we can get from our smart schools area, we're looking into those. But I just want to let you know, those were two other additional requests that we heard about in addition to these vehicles. The vehicles are certainly right now, we put them as a priority. We're talking about vehicles that are between 10 to 18 years old, and they're having some real challenges with them, so we wanted to try to make sure we keep people safe at least while they're on the road to start there. But just wanted to let you know that, okay? All right, so the total preliminary capital budget, Nancy?
so as you can see, the debt service budget is reduced by 10%. The facilities budget is going up 4%. For an overall reduction to our preliminary capital budget of 6%, or $834,000 from our proposed budget to our current approved budget.
Going down by -6. Okay. Any questions on that at all, board?
When do you want us to, weigh in on replacing those trucks? Which, as someone who just traded in her 2007 Honda Odyssey. I am completely in support of making sure we have, trucks from this decade.
So you can tell us now if you want, or you can wait. Would you like to wait, or you want to go around and tell us what your thoughts
So
are?
could I make a suggestion? I think we should wait until the budget is, all of it has been completed, because we might not have extra in the budget in order to allocate for these things. And I think that at the end, if we have a comprehensive list of, because they're not the only ones who are going to ask for
That's true.
things. So you're going to have all of the schools asking for something, all the departments asking for something. And then at that point, I can bring you back a list of, here's everything that was asked for.
Good, good.
You're welcome.
I completely agree, because we also talked last time about talking about the overall numbers the board's comfortable with. So that is, as the big benchmark, something we have to pay attention to.
Okay, great. Did you want to say something more?
I know we discussed like a few meetings ago about hybrid buses. I know that, I'm not really sure if that's still an option on the table, but would the purchases now affect the decision for switching over to those if that's an option?
Not at this time.
So the hybrid bus piece, so those requirements, they're out right now between 2027 and 2035. So we have a little time to kind of work through that a little bit, basically. Not a lot, but just to be clear. So when I talk to my colleagues about those who have hybrid buses, right? How's it going? What are you doing, right? So many of them who have hybrid buses in place, so they're still keeping a couple of the regular diesel buses, right? Because there are some concerns about long-distance trips and going up and down mountains and whatever else have you, depending on how large your district is. So several have opted to have a mixture of buses just until we can kind of see how everything kind of goes. So having a couple still on hand that are fairly new when we get to 2027 would be still a good option as well. I hope that answered your question. Did that answer it okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. Right. So, very good. Okay. All right. Want to follow up from Minetto. We at our last meeting, we talked a little bit about the equipment needs at the Minetto for the school for their playground. We did go through to see some areas that we might be able to reduce, that we could cover these costs. And we did find an area. There's a transfer that could be made from the 490 BOCES code, and that is because those expenditures are able to be covered through ARP. You want to share a little bit about that, Nancy?
Certainly. So when I created the budget for last year, there were some line items that were put in there that I was not clear on at the time, whether or not they would be funded under ARP or not. And when I looked back and I reviewed this with the secretary and curriculum, I looked at the budget transfers, and there was a large chunk of money that was taken off of the general fund and moved over to the ARP funds for this year. So we do have that money available for the use of the playground equipment if the board chooses. What would have to happen is I would have to bring back a budget transfer next
week,
meeting,
2 weeks,
as I transfer from BOCE services to equipment.
Nancy, as a reminder, what was that number, the amount?
141,000.
141,000.
Questions on that? Everybody okay? Okay. All right. So the last thing I just wanted to make sure I shared with the board before we end tonight, I got an email here just recently from the county. So the county, as I talked to you about a couple weeks ago, they are working through shared services plan. They put together a plan, and all the different towns get together and see if there's a way that we can share services, basically. The schools are also included in those conversations. And in conversation with our county executive, our administrator, one of the things that was shared with me and also one of the folks who works here for the county and the city was that the county is right now involved in working to build or do some turf fields on some of their fields that they have out. I believe they're behind, right behind the.
The sheriff's,
Yes, on
corrections
Churchill Road.
facility.
So they're going to do some renovating to their fields. They're going to make them turf fields, basically. And they shared with me that if there's any interest, right, if the district wanted to avert some of its cost from the capital construction project that we're currently in, and you wanted to use turf fields, that, we could go together in on the cost of the fields, the cost of the engineers and whatever else have you that are involved, and make it like a shared service, basically. What would happen is that, the district would get so many slots to be able to use those fields, but those fields would also need to be accessible to the community, right? But it's something to kind of think about. I shared with Mr. Church that I wouldn't commit the board to anything, but I would bring it to you all and just share it with you, and then we could come back and just have a conversation. But that is an idea that's out there if the board wishes to do that. If not, then you don't have to. The benefit is, again, if you want a turf field and you don't want to buy your own, well, you don't want to have your own that you're constantly doing on your own, you'd at least have a way to do turf fields as a partnership with the county. The downside to it is basically, right now you have total controls of your field, right? And then because this has to be accessible to the community, you may not have that 100% control of when and where you need those fields. So just something that was shared with me, and I told him that I would share it with you all. So I just wanted to make sure I brought that up. Any questions about that at all?
Right now, I think you're talking about the Legends fields. up there.
Yes.
Right now, I think there's just softball fields there. Are they
That's what they're
putting
going to,
something different in, like multi-use fields, or just redoing the softball? fields?
softball fields.
So you're saying the partnership is like our future capital project, the fields by Layton and stuff. You're talking about those fields could be turf? Is
Yeah,
that what you mean?
So we currently have turf fields in our current project, and what he's saying is that, hey, if you want to save money and not have to do it on your own and do for yourself,
We have
right?
more turf fields, not just the stadium that we?
Yes.
Interesting.
The fields around Layton were supposed to be turf. They-
The
in the
ba-
plan,
In the
Yeah.
plan originally, the baseball and the softball fields were turf,
Yes.
yes.
yeah.
And one of the things that this board or future boards can consider in the planning is not having turf and saving the costs from that. Especially, well, beyond costs, we can talk about it, but I'll leave that for later.
So, something that he shared with us, right? I spoke with him by phone. I told him I'd bring it to you all this evening and share it with you all. There is no need to commit to anything. If you want to think about it a little bit, if you want to have further conversations, we can. If you want to just hold off, we can do that as well. But I wanted to share that with you because I did have the conversation.
Yeah, is the cost component just the soft cost up front, or would there be a yearly component to that as well?
What I've heard is it's the upfront cost, right? There hasn't been a lot of conversation about this, so let me just back up. When this piece came up, so there was a shared service meeting that was going to happen, right? And it was happening maybe 2 weeks ago on a Thursday evening. And so a community member who's a part of this contacted Tom, who contacted me. And then I said, well, let me talk to the county administrator. So I called him, said, can you tell me a little bit more about this? And so some of this happened really quickly, right? And so it became kind of like organic, right? So I think there's some additional thought that needs to kind of be a part of this. But what I did hear up front was, listen, the county's going to be doing these turf fields. It's going to happen. You all have a capital construction project. Some folks from the county have been watching some of our board meetings. And hey, if you would like to save some of the cost on some of the fields that you need to do, this might be an opportunity for you all. We can go in together and have some turf fields from the community if this cost is too much for the district, right? So it was kind of, I think, a good faith idea that came up, right, Jester? And something for the board to just think about. And I said I would bring it to you. I did get an email just recently here, and I wanted to share it with you all tonight. So, I don't know. Jim?
So is this phase 4 or 5?
5, 4, or 5?
It's 4.
For the, I think it's 4, maybe 5.
I don't know.
So let-
Softball and baseball, I think
Softball
it's
and
phase
baseball.
4.
So let's just say 4. When does that planning actually begin?
So we've got three, we're going into 3B now. So it'll be a little while because most of that work won't be done even up until next summer, if I remember correctly. So we have some time before we have to get there.
The completion of 4 was supposed to be 2027, I believe, by the time the softball and baseball fields were done.
Okay. So something to think about? Everybody okay? All right. We come back. How about we just think on it and come back and talk later? You okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll,
All right.
we'll ponder that.
With that said, that's all I have. Thank you for your time. All set.
All right, thank you. So moving on to the consent agenda, it just has 3 items tonight: the Special Education Board Report, Capital Project Allowance and Change Order, and the minutes from our December 20th board meeting. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tom. Second?
A second.
Thanks, Dave. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to personnel. Bob?
Good evening, everybody. Under item A, we have a couple of staff retirement, administrative staff retirements, and I'm going to read out each of them separately. The first retirement is Dr. Linda Doty. And whereas Dr. Linda Doty admirably served the students and staff of the Oswego City School District as an elementary teacher and principal from September 1st, 1990, with full commitment to the best interest of all the students, and worked in partnership with her fellow employees. So that's our first administrative retirement. The second retirement is Dr. Robert Duffy. And whereas Dr. Robert Duffy admirably served the students and staff of the Oswego City School District as a special education teacher and director of student services from October 17th, 2001, with full commitment to the best interests of all of the students, and worked in partnership with his fellow employees. So those are 2 of our administrative retirees.
We want to just thank them for their service, for their years of support on behalf of our students, and we wish them well in retirement. Can we give those 2 a round of applause for their years of service? We haven't approved yet. Thanking them for their years of service. And then we have 1 additional retirement, if you want to share that one. And
Yes, so under item B, we have a retirement recommendation for Brian Kuhn in Buildings and Grounds Department. Whereas Brian Kuhn admirably served the students and staff of the Oswego City School District as a senior maintenance worker from April 13th, 1987, with full commitment to the best interests of all students, and worked in partnership with his fellow employees.
I think we should give Brian a round of applause as well, too. Thank you.
Okay, so now the pressure is on. Is there a motion for A and B?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, Bob?
Yes, item C, we have professional staff recommendation as presented. Item C.
Okay, is there a motion for C?
Make the motion.
Thanks, Pam. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll let Diane make the choice. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks.
Okay. We have items D through G, which are our support staff recommendations as presented.
Okay, is there a motion for D through G, support staff recommendations?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Pam. Want to get Heidi this time?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. And lastly, items H through I, which are our substitutes and temporary employees and extra compensatory position recommendations as presented.
Okay, is there a motion for H and I?
I'll make a
Motion.
Thanks, Pam. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we move on to finance. Nancy?
A is a donor's choose for Oswego High School, and B is a donation from the Charities Aid Foundation to Fitcher Park School as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion for A and B?
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Tom. Second? Thank you, Dave. Any discussion?
Thank you, as always. Excellent donation. That group is fabulous. They seem to be, every meeting, a donation to some good cause. And also for Donors Choose, thank you not only to the donors, but to the teachers who reach out to Donors Choose to know enough to ask for items for our students. So thank you all.
Right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I believe we have to, going to go to executive session tonight?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. Maura, I'm so sorry.
I just wanted to say I hope everyone had a great holiday season. We've been on break, so there's really not much happening right now, but yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Maura? Okay, all right. Welcome back. I hope your first day back was good. Okay, now I think we have a. Oh, right. Jeez, I don't know why I'm skipping right over. So I actually had one item from the board. This is kind of a funny story, and thank you, Sean, for catching it. But I was contacted by a student who has the same name as a student in our district, but I believe she's a student in either Illinois or Ohio or Oregon, one of the other Oswegos. And it had to do with about the start time for school, about switching around the middle school and the elementary schools. So I did actually reach back out to her today when Sean pointed out that we don't have an Oswego East High School, which I had just completely read over, because I'm like, oh, good for Maddie advocating. And then I realized I don't know this Maddie. So I did reach out to her, but I figured I would, just put it out there that, as she pointed out in her very well-crafted email, which was part of a school project about reaching out to people who represent you, that later start times are deemed more appropriate developmentally for middle and secondary school students. And we'll see if she gets back to me about where she's actually from. Okay, are there any other items from the board?
Always. Well, Maura said, welcome back, but, I just want to thank everyone for returning after a break. There's never a guarantee, right? Once you get out, you might want to stay out, but no, thank you all. I hope everyone, like Maura said, enjoyed a well-deserved break and were able to enjoy their families, whether it be in person or I know many people maybe had to do it FaceTime, but that's okay. It's nice that we have that technology that they could almost be in person. So again, thank you to all our faculty, staff, students, and anybody in our district for coming back and helping us to continue the rest of the school year. We're, the last half now, right? Woo-hoo, halfway there. Thank you all.
Anything else? Move to executive session?
yes, we'll need an executive to discuss details of proposed, current, or pending litigation, and also details of a medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. Okay.
Okay, is there a motion for executive?
I'll move it.
Thanks, Jim. Second?
I'll second.
And there's no business afterwards, by the way.
Okay, no need for a vote after? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, thank you.